Gotta make sure everything is set up. And then we can get started here. I think we are. Wait, might. Let me close this up real quick. All right, let me get this going here because this got to be done since we all in the off season now. Um, let's get into this. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, what is up? What is good? What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are enjoying your day. So everybody has heard the news. It came last night, like late last night, but nothing was fully concrete. Well, nothing was fully concrete until the paperwork was signed. But the paperwork has officially been signed. So the news is broke. John Harbaugh has officially signed with the New York Giants. He will be their next head coach for the next 5 years at the very least. He signs a 5-year, $100 million deal. So he's getting paid $20 million for the next 5 years. All right. Congrats to John. I'm glad to see he was able to get the spot he wanted because, again, he had the freedom to go anywhere, and he was definitely desired by a lot of teams. There were conversations about him with the Falcons, conversations about him with the Titans. People thought maybe he goes to Cleveland. That's an interesting roster. Maybe he stays in the AFC North, gets that revenge against the Ravens. There's no hard feelings at the end of the day. He chose the best spot, the best fit. And I've been saying it the last few days. I think the best spot and the best fit for John Harbaugh right now would be the New York Giants. The Giants wanted him. They could offer him as much as possible. They basically gave him the keys to the damn franchise. They did everything in their power. They were begging for John to sign. And John obviously appreciated that because he did sign with them ultimately. So here we are. John Harbaugh will be the new head coach for the New York Giants heading into the 2026 NFL season. Now, why am I doing this? Why am I doing a simple guide here for Giants fans to give an understanding about John Harbaugh? Well, I need to clear some things up because, once again, when it comes to fan bases, anytime any sort of move has happened involving a former coach going to a new team or a former player going to a new team, you always have the two fan bases go at it. What's going on, Loyal? Best of luck to your team on Sunday against the New England Patriots. Please, Loyal. CJ can't play like he played last week. Y'all won't beat the Patriots if CJ's trying to hand the ball over to them. They got to be better. But, yeah. I'm doing a simple guide because whenever you have a change, a former coach or a former player goes to another team, all of a sudden the fans of that team, if they have feelings about that certain coach or player, they're going to be, running their mouths and saying certain things about, oh man, good luck with that guy or good luck with this guy or good luck with that guy. And then the fan bases that get somebody new, all of a sudden, it's like, well, we just got him, and all of a sudden you're trying to act like he's trash and bad and all this other stuff. Well, we just got him. We're trying to see what it's about, and all of a sudden you're trashing him. I think he could be good here. And then there's a back and forth with a lot of this, man. It's a back and forth with a lot of this. I'm seeing a lot of these comments on Twitter. You have a bunch of Ravens fans that are actively laughing at the New York Giants for getting John Harbaugh and saying, have fun with that guy. Have fun with all the blown leads and yada, yada, yada. You think he's going to take you to the promised land. He's not. He ain't going to win you anything, so good luck with that. And then you got Giants fans that are coming to defense of this signing and saying, listen, you don't understand the situation we're in. This is the guy we need. And in terms of the blown leads, you're talking about John Harbaugh blowing leads. We blew leads all last year. We are looking for something specific when it comes to this guy. And this guy will provide it. He's a great head coach. He can provide it. There's been a whole back and forth. And then and on the flip side, you got Giants fans that are trying to go back at Ravens fans saying, man, Ravens, y'all spoiled. Y'all don't know how good you had it. You gonna learn. Life without John Harbaugh ain't gonna be so easy. It's just a bunch of back and forth. And honestly, it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of time. So I want to do a simple pros and cons for John Harbaugh and give a basic guide to Giants fans. First, I need to establish this. There needs to be an understanding between both fan bases because I don't think both fan bases seem to understand the circumstances that each of the teams in. I don't think Ravens fans truly understand the circumstance and situation that the Giants are in, and I don't think the Giants truly seem to understand the circumstance and situation that the Ravens are in. And that's what's leading to the discourse. So as a Ravens fan, I'm going to start with my fan base not seeming to understand the situation that's going on with the New York Giants. Guys, the New York Giants are a dumpster fire. The New York Giants have been completely unstable. Ever since the end of the Tom Coughlin era, this team has been looking for answers. They have been a mess. They've made the playoffs like 2 times since the Tomlin era ended. Since the Coughlin era ended, They made the playoffs twice since the Coughlin era ended. But past that, they have been a mess. And it has only gotten worse. The Daniel Jones era was chaotic, and that ended. They don't want this same situation to happen with Jackson Dart. They're in a terrible situation. A terrible situation. They've won, 6 or 7 total games within the last 2 years. They've consistently been at the top of the draft. They have got to figure things out. They've been in a horrible situation. What the Giants have been looking for and what the Giants have needed is stability. Stability. That is what they've been looking for. They've had some moments. Like I said, they made the playoffs in 2016. The final time they made the playoffs with Eli. That game against the Packers didn't go the way they wanted to. They had that very weird year in 2022 with Daniel Jones where they actually made the playoffs and won a playoff game in which they actually thought they were finally heading in the right direction for once, just for everything to collapse as soon as they gave Daniel Jones $40 million, and then everything collapsed and it got worse and they tanked. And even when they won that with Daniel Jones, they still weren't fully confident about the head coach and the situation there. It was like, okay, if we can get the right group of people for Daniel Jones, maybe this can turn into something. And then Daniel Jones completely unraveled in front of their eyes, and it just went to hell. They've been an inconsistent mess for the better part of a decade. The one thing Giants fans are looking for, the one thing they know their team needs is stability. The Giants are looking to rebuild the stability in their organization. They need stability. They need stability. That is what they're looking for. They need stability. They need a coach that is going to come in and rebuild the stability of this organization. And John is the perfect guy for that. This is not a team that's looking to compete for a title anytime soon. That's not what they hired John for. They would love for that to happen. Because if that happens, that would be a perfect scenario where he rebuilds the stability and they compete for a title with John still being here. That would be a perfect scenario for the Giants. But the most important thing that the Giants are looking for is stability within the organization, stability with the coaching staff, stability with everything involving the organization. That is what the team is looking for. That is what the fan base is looking for. You're going to have highly optimistic fans that are just going to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, we got Harbaugh now. We got all these guys. We about to run this division, head to the playoffs, and go to the Super Bowl. Those are fans being optimistic. Every fan base has that. You don't think Raiders fans are thinking that if they draft Mendoza, they're about to turn this around with a new head coach? It's the optimism in fans. You always say these things. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but you are free to be optimistic about your team. But with this team, what the Giants are looking for is stability. That is what they're looking for. That is why they brought him there. Stability, because they have not had that for such a long time. It's been very up and down. And John will be able to bring that level of stability with the control they're going to give him. If he can bring in the right coaching staff that best fits for the personnel that he has on that roster, they can build something. They can absolutely build something. They can absolutely build something. Also, the question does have to come up. He had a 5-year deal. They gave him a 5-year deal. In all honesty, I have no idea how long John wants to coach. You know, a lot of us here speculated that John wanted to get that second Super Bowl with the team and retire, but that didn't work out. You know, it is what it is. But I don't know how long John wants to coach. He's 62 years old. I don't know if he's interested in coaching in the league until his 70s. I don't know. So he's got that 5-year deal. Within these 5 years, the expectation is for him to rebuild the stability of this organization and hopefully take them to heights that they have not seen, consistently take them to heights that they have not seen in quite some time. That is their goal. That is their focus. That is the reason why they brought John Harbaugh in, to rebuild the stability of the organization. That is the main focus. That is the main focus. That is the main focus. After building that up, hopefully, with a good head coach like John, they will be able to properly compete for a championship. And maybe they could get one out of him. I don't expect John to be here for an 18-plus years. I don't even know how long John wants to coach. But the primary focus is for John to come back and rebuild the stability of this franchise. And if he's able to take them to new heights and win a Super Bowl, it will be a perfect successful situation. Now, if he was not able to win a Super Bowl with this team, but still build them up to a level of stability where they can manage themselves, then yeah, there'll be a lot of fans that'll be like, well, we're hopeful that we would get a Super Bowl out of this, but it just didn't work out that way. I am disappointed that we weren't able to get a Super Bowl, but I am glad that he was able to build up the stability of this organization. Now we have a team that can compete. If John doesn't want to continue the job after his 5-year extension, if he's planning to retire, we can go get another guy that can continue this because the foundation is here. That is the primary focus. If they can win a Super Bowl, that would be perfect. And I'm telling you, the fans believe if John Harbaugh can build the stability of this organization, they can win a Super Bowl. The primary focus is to build the stability. From there, they will look to try to take it to that next step and try to compete in the NFC and hopefully get to a Super Bowl. But the main focus is to rebuild the stability because they're a dumpster fire right now. They're a dumpster fire. And that is what they're looking for. And it's not going to be pretty. But if John can get that done and rebuild the stability of this organization, it will be a successful hire. And if he can win them a Super Bowl, my God, it would be perfect. So that is the aspect from their side. As a Ravens fan, assessing what the Giants are looking for in John, that is the understanding there. They need a coach for stability. And the reason I have to point out the primary reason as to why John is there is because both sides seem to have this disconnect. You're seeing a bunch of Ravens fans that are trying to clown the Giants for signing John Harbaugh, with them talking about all the blown leads and all this other stuff. Ah, man, y'all signing John. You're going, what, 6 games next year, 7 games next year? Y'all about to learn John Harbaugh ain't really going to take you to the promised land and all this other stuff. Dude, the primary focus is to build up the stability. I don't think Giants fans are assuming that Harbaugh is going to automatically take this team to the promised land in year one. It's to build up the stability. Everybody knows it's going to be a process. The Giants have won 7 games over the last 2 years. He's here to build up the stability. If the team can stay healthy, he builds the roster up the way he wants, and he brings in the proper coaching staff, they're going to get the desired results. At least that is what they believe. So all these Ravens fans that are clowning, they're not expecting to win the Super Bowl next year. They're not expecting to win the Super Bowl. They didn't hire John Harbaugh to take them to the Super Bowl next year. They hired John Harbaugh to rebuild the stability. And they're hopeful that that process can be fast while he's still under contract, so that once it is, stable, and once they do look like a contender with John, they could hope within this 5 years he could take them to the promised land. But that's not the goal right now. The goal is to build up stability. If we're sitting here in 4 years and nothing's changed with the New York Giants, that's a complete failure. But in 4 years, if this team is within the space to compete, then they've done what they've needed to do. At that point, you try to go see if you can get it done. You try to go see if you can get it done. That's the main focus. Build up the stability and then go from there. Build up the stability and then go from there. But a lot of these fans are just straight up clowning the Giants for being happy that they've got a guy that could potentially bring back the stability that this organization's been missing since Tom Coughlin was there. I don't understand that aspect here. I don't understand that aspect here, man. I don't understand that aspect. So from the Ravens' perspective, I don't understand the reason the Ravens fans are coming after the Giants for being happy that they've got a coach that can help build the stability, because they're not expecting to compete for a championship. The Ravens and the Giants are in two different situations. The situations that the Ravens in and the situations the Giants in are two different situations. The Giants need to build something up. The Ravens have to win now. There's two different situations. So to clown them, for the fans that are clowning them on Twitter and acting like John Harbaugh's a bum and that they're going to be complete garbage and, you guys are only going to win 8 games next year. Good luck with your 8 wins with John Harbaugh. 8 wins would be an improvement. They've won 7 games in 2 years. If they had 8 wins with John Harbaugh in year 1, something clearly went right for them. So I don't understand the Ravens fans that are clowning that when you clearly see this is a team that is trying to build themselves back up. So just watching Ravens fans doing that to Giants fans, it doesn't make sense to me. On the flip side, the Giants fans that keep coming after the Ravens and saying, you guys don't know how good you have it. You guys don't know how good you have it. John, you guys are going to regret moving off of John Harbaugh. For the Giants fans that are trying to strike back at the Ravens fans saying, we're going to regret moving off of John Harbaugh. You don't realize how good you have it. No. Let me explain from a Ravens perspective as to why we are fully happy. We are beyond elated that John's gone. Like I have stated, we are in 2 different situations. You guys needed a guy that was going to bring the stability back to an organization that has been losing, that has been at the bottom of the league. So John's perfect for you. We're in a situation where we have to win the Super Bowl now. We need to win the Super Bowl now. We spent 18 years with John. And throughout these last 8 years in this Lamar Jackson era, we have done nothing but underachieve and disappoint. We are not going to miss John Harbaugh because it's been the same story under John Harbaugh for the last decade plus. Since the Super Bowl, it's been the same situation. We are in a situation right now where we need to win the championship. We're not looking to rebuild. We're not looking to be competitive. We need to win now. We are in a situation where we need to win the Super Bowl now. We had tried for years with John Harbaugh. We had tried for years. I'm not gonna bring up the years, I'm not gonna bring up the post years from 2013 to 2018 before Lamar took over. I'm not gonna talk about that. There's a whole array of things that have to be spoken of because people don't seem to remember how every year went. And there's aspects that there. 2013, the team was gutted. Ray was gone. Ed Reed was gone. A lot of the pieces on that Super Bowl team was gone. They had moved on. I think they traded. Remember, they traded Anquan Bolden. The stupidest thing this team did was trading him. So 2013, we knew we weren't gonna do anything significant because the team was gutted. If we would have made the playoffs that year, that actually would have been impressive, and we nearly did. So we knew we weren't in the situation. We had to take that down year after the Super Bowl and then try to retool. We retooled in 2014. We retooled. We brought in Gary Kubiak. We had Owen Daniels. We brought in some talent. You got Steve Smith Sr. from Carolina. We had brought in talent, and in 2014, we made the playoffs. We beat the Steelers, and then, we choked that game against New England. It is what it is. It is what it is. 2015, everybody was hurt. The first game of the season against Denver, Terrell Suggs tore his Achilles. We were cooked from then. Everybody was getting hurt. Flacco tore his ACL, PCL, MCL. Justin Forsett was out with a season-ending injury. Steve Smith Sr. suffered. Everybody was out. So 2015, that has nothing to do with coaching. You lost everybody. You lost everyone. There's nothing you could do. It was a lost year. 2016, you got everybody back. Flacco was healthy. Me personally, I didn't look at 2016 as a year that we were going to be able to compete because I had questions about how Flacco was going to look post ACL. Keep in mind, this is back then. This is 2016. With the way a lot of things work nowadays with modern medicine, even now in this current day, somebody tears their ACL, they could come back from it and be great. We didn't feel that way about athletes tearing their ACL or Achilles back then. Even though this is a decade ago, we didn't know what we were going to get from Flacco post-injury. So 2016 was kind of one of those periods where we have to be patient. But we still had opportunities. The reason a lot of Ravens fans get on the case of these John Harbaugh-led teams is because despite the circumstances, and this is what makes him a good coach, despite the circumstances, we were in situations where we could have made the playoffs and win in these moments. We just didn't. And that's where the problems came in with us, where we are always in a situation where we could compete and could do something special, but we always fell short. 2016 could have been something interesting if we made the playoffs, but we fell short and couldn't make a stop against Pittsburgh on Christmas. We lose the division. The following year, 2017, the full expectation was Flacco is fully healthy from that ACL. You brought in new guys. Even though they were older veterans, you brought in Mike Wallace. You brought in, who else did we bring in? Jeremy Maclin. The expectation was you were going to at least be a playoff team. And back then, all we said was, as long as Joe can make it to the dance, January Joe, because of that 2012 playoff run, January Joe can appear and we could go on a run. That's what we were saying back then. Even if we didn't believe in the case, we were having blind optimism. Even if the team wasn't that good, we had blind optimism that if we could sneak into the playoffs, we could do it. And then what ends up happening? 4th and 12 on New Year's Eve, and we missed the playoffs. So the main issues Ravens fans have had with John Harbaugh is we've been in a lot of these moments in situations where we should have handled our business, where we should have got it done, where we had the advantage, and we just squandered it and choked it away. So for those years, I'm not going to really mention those years when it comes to the primary conversation of the Lamar Jackson era because that was pre-Lamar. I'm not going to use that too much on John. We're talking strictly about this era with Lamar Jackson. We have failed to get it done. We have had the number 1 seed in the AFC twice. In the Patrick Mahomes era, we have had the number 1 seed in the AFC, not once, but twice. And in both situations, we have failed to get it done. You have a generational quarterback under center, and we can't even sniff the Super Bowl? This franchise has won more with less talent than we have had on this roster during this era. That's not a good look. And when you keep running the same situation every single year, you're in these moments, you have these moments of brilliance when it looks like you can take over and you keep failing, something's got to change. And we'll get a little bit more into the aspect of John Harbaugh in this case, because that comes into the pros and cons of John Harbaugh. But we had a lot of talent in this era. We have had teams that were good enough to go win the title, and we didn't get it done. In my opinion, there's only one year we should have won the Super Bowl. That's just my personal opinion. 2023 was the one year we should have won the Super Bowl. I did not think last year's team was good enough to go beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and I did not think in 2019 we were going to beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. That's my personal opinion, but those were technically teams that had expectations to go win a title. They were a contending team, and they fell short. So there's 3 moments in this Lamar Jackson era where you could legitimately say they were a contending team, they're expected to go get it done. And technically last year, they were expectations. Even though they weren't a contending team based on how they played and how the season went, coming into the year, everyone viewed this as the most talented roster the Ravens have had. The expectation was Super Bowl. They were one of the top favorites to get to the Super Bowl and win the championship. Pundits everywhere was picking them. So to go from that to not even sniffing the playoffs with the amount of talent you have on this roster, that right there was the last straw. And yes, John is a fantastic coach. He's one of the best coaches in the game for a reason. Whether you like him or not, Ravens flock, he is one of the best coaches in the game for a reason. We have our reasons to have a lot of dismay towards him. But again, he is still one of the best head coaches in the league. But at the end of the day, we had reached this point where we knew we were not getting over the hump with John Harbaugh. His message, his way of doing things was no longer working for this team. It wasn't going to happen. So when Giants fans keep talking about we're going to regret this, we're going to regret this, we're going to regret this, you have to understand we are expected to win. And all we've done is stagnate. We've had 12-win seasons. We've had 13-win seasons. We were expected to win a championship. At the very least, we were expected to be in the Super Bowl. And we have left this 8-year journey with Harbaugh and Lamar, and they don't even sniff the damn Super Bowl. That's why John is gone. The years of underachieving, the years of disappointment, the amount of blown leads. They have blown leads at a historical pace. It has been generational levels of choking. That is why we've moved on from him. Well, no matter what happens, man. No matter what happens. No matter what happens, moving forward, whether this team makes the right choices, which again, this is a top-class organization, I am willing to trust that they're going to bring the right guys in, because it's not like we're just moving off of John and keeping the coaching staff the same. This coaching staff is getting completely retooled. And Lamar is going to have a say in who the next head coach is. He's not making the final decision. Steve makes the final decision because he has the power to do that. But Lamar is going to have a lot of say about who the next head coach is going to be. And of course, because he's the face of this team and a lot of the veterans look towards him to be more vocal in terms of things they want, he is going to have a huge say in the next head coach that's not only going to be the best fit for him, but the best fit for those guys in the locker room. This is a talented roster. They've got a lot of talent. They have the opportunity to add even more talent via free agency, via the draft. They still have a window open, and if they make moves, they can make sure that window stays open. This is a top-class organization. I am going to put my faith in a top-class organization that is actively showcased that they are willing to give the keys to the face of the franchise and let him have a say in who's going to be the next head coach of this team. They're giving a lot of leeway to Lamar. So, for my future Hall of Fame quarterback, the ball is in your court. And I am going to trust in my guy and trust in my GM and trust in my owner to get this done. At the end of the day, If we make all these changes and we still can't get it done, that's the path you live in. But we had to make changes. Things weren't going. If it goes well and we win a Super Bowl, we look back at this and say this was the right move. They needed to make that move to get over the hump and finally get out of the AFC into the Super Bowl. We'll look at this and say it was a smart move. If they somehow deteriorate, which again, as long as you have Lamar Jackson and especially Derrick Henry next to him, that's not to be an expectation as long as these guys are on the field. But if somehow they go in the wrong direction, people will definitely look at the players. They'll look at your quarterback. They'll have serious questions. There'll be a lot of questions about how you're going backwards post John. And there'll be a lot of discussions about it. And that's fine. If you go up or you go down, that's fine. We were stagnant. We were never moving off of this spot. So many moments showcasing moments of brilliance. Game 1 of the regular season, game 1 of this year was the perfect example of how the Ravens have been in this era. These last 8 years, showcasing moments of brilliance, but never being able to finish the job, never being able to get it done when you need to most, always falling short, always underperforming, making mistakes in the worst possible moment, and ultimately losing the game. That Bills game was a perfect representation of everything the Ravens have been these 8 years. Things needed to change. It was the same story every single year. It got to the point where many of us in the fan base, myself included, we walked into the season fully expecting us to fail in the playoffs. And everybody else sat back and said, don't matter what the Ravens do in the regular season, we know they're going to blow in the playoffs. When people can walk into a season and immediately say you're going to choke without even having these guys take a snap on the field, you know there's a problem. The Ravens used to have a reputation of being one of those teams you never wanted to see in the playoffs. People used to fear coming to M&T Bank Stadium. People used to fear having to deal with the Ravens defense. All of that is gone now. Nobody fears coming into our stadium. 3-6. That's 6 losses at the bank this year. 6 losses is the most losses we've had at home in franchise history. And we had some awful teams throughout the first 3 years of this existence, from 96 to 99. That squad didn't lose 6 home games. This squad did, with the amount of talent they had. The amount of blown leads they've had. So much has happened. So for Giants fans, for you to understand our position, yes, John is a great head coach, but things needed to change. We cannot continue to move in the same direction. And we even got more information because it was revealed John was not going to move off of these guys. And we'll speak about the pros and cons about John in a minute. But John was not moving off of these guys. He wanted to run it back with his coordinators. Despite what Zachary Orr has done these last 2 years, now bad that defense has looked, he wanted to run it back with them again. He wasn't willing to change anything at all. The only time he was willing to change is when his hand was forced, such as the Greg Roman situation. Things needed to change. Things needed to change in Baltimore. If we end up going downhill, you got to look towards the face of the franchise and saying, why is that happening now? At the end of the day, whatever happens, happens. If we go up and win a Super Bowl, great move. If we go down and we don't get it done, we live with the result and the decisions and the choices we made. At the end of the day, the owner made the call. He is not satisfied with the blown leads. He is not satisfied with the choking performances. He's not satisfied by this team underachieving. We have the 3rd most wins in the league this last decade, and we haven't sniffed a Super Bowl. Changes needed to be made. So for the Giants fans that are sitting back and say we're going to regret moving off of Harbaugh, we won't. If we end up losing, we end up losing. If we end up winning, we'll celebrate. We end up winning. But something needed to change. You can't always be in the same situation every single year where you knew what was going to happen. I've been on this channel for years now, man. For years, bro. For years, man. And for people that have been on my channel and been here in the chat, I have accurately predicted how things were going to go for the Ravens. The 2024 season, I predicted it to a T. I literally came out before the season started. I told the fans I know exactly what our record's going to be, and I know how our season's going to end. And I was right from top to bottom. You guys that were here in the chat, you guys that were here when I said that in 2024, I was right. The only thing I got wrong was 2 things. 1, I didn't expect us to lose to the Raiders. And 2, I didn't expect us to sweep the Bengals. But I predicted us to go 12-5. I predicted us to win the AFC North. I predicted us to get to the divisional round, and I predicted us to lose to either Buffalo or Kansas City in that divisional round, and I said it was going to be another situation where mistakes are made. Last year was Zay Flowers' fumble. I said maybe this time either Mark Andrews is going to fumble or Isaiah Likely fumbles. I said that. And guess what happened in that playoff game? And guess how that season went? Any longtime fans, I was here. I said it. And that was a big part of why in 2024, I nearly walked away from this because everything was so predictable with this team. And then I even said it there, though it didn't end up happening. It did not end up happening. It did not end up happening, but I did end up saying that, man, this level of choky performances and underperformances and heartbreaking losses, I said that the Chiefs end our season, the Bills end our season. Watch what happens next year. The Bengals are going to end our season. I was wrong about that. Pittsburgh's the one that ended our season. But I did say it was going to be the same old story. Things needed to change. We have a generational quarterback who's going to be a Hall of Famer. We have a future Hall of Fame back. We have to win a championship with these guys here together. If we can't win a championship with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, everyone outside all the fans outside of the Ravens flock, they'll take their shots and say whatever one. And again, that comes down to legacy. Lamar will have to live with that. That's not what we have to live with. He'll have to live with it. He don't win a Super Bowl. That's something he got to live with. But the way people are going to look at this franchise moving forward, if we don't win with Lamar Jackson, it's not going to be a good look. You won with Flacco. You won with Dilfer. And you couldn't win with a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame running back playing together? You couldn't even sniff a Super Bowl with that? We could not afford to continue to move this way with John Harbaugh because no signs of change was going to happen. John actively was ready to bring back that same coaching staff. And if they would have ran it back next year, the results would have been the same. The results would have been the same. So for the Giants fans that are saying the Ravens are going to regret it, there's nothing to regret. Everything has changed. We need something different. If we end up falling off, we end up falling off. Whatever happens, happens. But I'm going to trust a top-class organization that's been one of the best in the league for such a long time. I'm going to trust in this top-class organization because you've had one of the best GMs, despite us having problems with how he's drafted. That's something within the fan base we'll talk about. He is regarded as one of the best GMs. He's regarded as he's just not Howie, but he's one of the best GMs in the league. And you have somebody that is viewed as one of the best owners in the league. You have a top-class organization. I'm going to put my trust in a top-class organization making the right moves to maximize what we have here so that we can win. That's why they came out and said the next head coach they're looking for is somebody that's going to maximize, that's going to get the very best out of Lamar Jackson and maximize this era that is remaining of Lamar Jackson, which, again, we have no idea how long this era is going to go with Lamar Jackson. I honestly think it's going to go as long as he wants to play, but people think he'll be done in 3 years. They said that 3 years ago. They'll say it 3 years from now when he's still playing football, but that's beside the point. But they need to maximize Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry while they have this duo together. That's what the next head coach is all about. And that's why Lamar has the opportunity to be involved in the coaching search, well, not coaching search, in the coaching hire when it comes down to those final 5 or 4 they bring in. So again, I'm going to trust this top-class organization because they're putting their reputation on the line. They just fired one of the best head coaches in football. Their reputation is essentially on the line. Because, again, if they can't win with a generational quarterback and a Hall of Fame running back together, how do you think that's going to look on this organization that was top class and they couldn't sniff a Super Bowl with those two guys next to each other? That's not going to be a good look. So, again, for the Giants fans that are sitting here and saying, you don't know how good you had it with Harbaugh, you're going to regret it, you don't understand our perspective. You don't at all. We need to win. We cannot continue to stick with the same old thing that we've been trying for years that has not worked out. We need to win. Winning 12, 13 games, that's expected. That is expected. We are expected to win. We are expected to win our division. Nobody cares. Getting the number 1 seed, we've done it multiple times now. Nobody cares. We have to go win in January. Hell, we've been to a damn championship game now. Nobody cares. The only thing people talk about when it comes to the Ravens is Super Bowl. They have to win. It wasn't working with John. We had to move forward. I'm glad you guys have him. He's exactly what you guys need right now. But from our perspective, we needed somebody different. And that's why we are actively searching. You got a lot of great coaches right now that are looking to take this job. We have to pick the best one, and our face of the franchise quarterback is going to be involved in that. So I wish the Giants best of luck in their situation to gain back their stability. And as for us, we know we got to win now. So we got to find the right guy. With that being said, we can now get into the aspect of the main topic of discussion, the pros and the cons of John Harbaugh. I just wanted to give the perspective of both the Ravens and the Giants fans so they can understand each other here, because a lot of back and forth about two different aspects, because they keep talking about how good we had it while ignoring the fact that we were massively underperforming even with that guy being there, and changes needed to happen. And then for us that are saying, man, they're only going to win 8 games. 8 games would be fantastic for Giants. It'd be fantastic because they're heading in the right direction. They're trying to build stability. It's two different sides right now. Two different situations. We absolutely needed to make this move, and they absolutely needed to go get him. So now, with that being said, we can get into the pros and the cons of John Harbaugh. Give this simple guide for Giants fans to understand who they have and what to expect from a John Harbaugh. So we'll get into that. But before we do so, I want to take a look at some of these comments and read some of your questions so we can move forward here. What's going on, Justin? I'm still laughing about Loop's missed game-winning field goal. That's wild, but it is what it is. What's going on, Spirit? We have a good blue chip talent, but not enough red chip talent at enough positions. You guys will be fine. It's about building. It's absolutely about building. Giants fans said, don't bring Orr. Again, I don't think that's what Harbaugh is going to do. I saw a report that he is potentially looking at Anthony Weaver, which could be a pretty good hire for the defensive coordinator position. And then for the offensive coordinator position, if Todd Monken doesn't take a head coaching job or doesn't take an offensive coordinator job anywhere else, if he's not interested in doing that and is perfectly fine being right back next to Harbaugh, he's going to be the next offensive coordinator for the New York Giants, which I feel would be a great fit, especially with you having a Jackson Dart, a Malik Neighbors, and a Cam Scatteraboo. But I think if you get Todd Monken to be offensive coordinator, you're gonna be good. Again, I know Ravens fans will definitely want to throw this out there because it's John, but I don't think he's going to get Greg Roman and Zachary Orr. Let's put that to bed. I don't think John, knowing the circumstance and situation, he's not gonna bring in Greg Roman and Zachary Orr. Let's kill that noise. He's not doing that. He's got plenty of other connections and other guys. He's already tried it with both of them. It didn't work. So Monken would probably be the next offensive coordinator. If he wants the job and he wants to work with Harbaugh again, which it seems like he wants to, yeah, he could. But if he wants to go be a head coach, now's the time, because I think Cleveland actually I think they potentially interviewed for him for their head coaching position. If he wants a head coaching job, now's the time. There's plenty of other spots. If he's fine as an offensive coordinator, he'll probably end up next to Harbaugh. If he wants a head coaching job, now's the time. So it's up to Todd, no matter what he wants to do. If he feels he's ready to run an offense, if he's ready to run a team, by all means, go at it. But I think he's going to end up being the offensive coordinator for Todd Monken. I don't know what the defense coordinator is going to be. Maybe it ends up being Anthony Weaver. I don't know who John's going to get, but I think the offensive coordinator is going to be Todd Monken. But it depends. Does he want to be a head coach now? I don't know. It's just up to Todd. If he feels he's ready to be a head coach and he wants to be one, then he won't be the offense coordinator. But if he doesn't, then yeah, he's going to join John with the Giants. Might as well work with somebody you've already worked with before. So, yeah. Dart is a dog. He's got to learn how to get down and protect himself. Yeah, they're going to have to emphasize that to him because that's what he needs to do. What's going on, Daniel? Appreciate you stopping by. Well, I agree with us getting him. We need a coach that will bring respectability and expectations back to our franchise. John is somebody that's going to bring that, but he also needs to make sure he has the right coordinators, which we will talk about. But that speaks from the positive and the negative of John Harbaugh. Not the positive and negative, the pros and cons, excuse me. But we'll get to that in a minute. Um, Giants, John Harbaugh might be a good fit for a 5-year potential $100 million contract. I'll have to make it work. I mean, it has to work. They need a guy that's going to rebuild stability. What's up? Keeping it real. This is Sam. What's going on? Been a while. I've been doing well. Hopefully you're doing well as well. Harbaugh and Tomlin leaving. It was time for both of them. Well, Harbaugh got fired. Tomlin stepped down. That's two different situations. Tomlin's stepping away from football right now. Harbaugh got fired and went to the Giants. So they're two different circumstances. Um, with John, I expect a Super Bowl. Nothing else is enough personally. That might be a tall task, but I mean, you got a 5-year period to see if he can get you something. Jackson Dart's just hitting his stride, completing 216 to 339 passes, 2K yard, 15 touchdowns. They signed Russell Wilson for $10 million as a mentor. They didn't sign Russell Wilson as a mentor. They kind of had him as a starting quarterback. They actually wanted to develop Jackson Dart, which is why they wanted, Russell Wilson to be the starter. That didn't work out. They didn't sign Russell Wilson to be their mentor. They wanted Jackson Dart to develop, and they had Russell Wilson be the starter. Russell Wilson didn't come to New York to be a mentor. He came to New York to play. It's just he didn't play well enough, and they have to throw Jackson Dart in. That's how it worked out. So he didn't go there to be a mentor, and I don't even know if he wants to be there. He wants to still play. He's not trying to take a mentorship role. He doesn't feel like he's at that point. So I don't know how that's going to work out there. Winning double-digit games just to lose in the playoffs is not enough at all. Yeah, welcome to our world. At 63, if John gets a Super Bowl win with the Giants, he should retire after that. Well, I personally feel his goal was to get that second Super Bowl with the Ravens and then retire. I think that's something he's still chasing, but who knows what he's trying to do. Y'all be doing good just getting a 500 record. Good luck. That would be perfectly fine for them. Well, you can't get a 500 record with 17 games, but if they end up winning 8 or 9 games, that's a slam dunk first year with John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh will be a Jerry Jones age waiting on a Super Bowl. I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. That's for the Giants to figure out right now. Steve Biscotti is an absolute mob boss. I know what you're trying to say. I love him because nobody knows about him. He hadn't had another press conference in 7. Yeah, he hasn't had an official press conference with the media in like 7 years. But he hasn't. He talked like the last time he actually talked to like somebody in an interview publicly was 2022. But in terms of an official press conference, it's been like since 2017, 2018. So yeah. He took Monken over there. Well, it hasn't been official yet. Nobody knows if we don't know what Todd Monken wants to do. The expectation is that Todd Monken is going to be the new offensive coordinator for the New York Giants. But at the end of the day, the ultimate goal for the most part is for them to get him there. But if he wants to be a head coach, then he's going to go be a head coach if somebody's going to give him a chance. The ultimate goal is to get Todd Monken. That's what Harbaugh wants. But if Todd Monken accepts an offensive coordinator job like with the Bucs, because he does have connections with Tampa Bay, if he takes that spot or he goes be a head coach for one of these vacancies, then John's going to have to choose somebody else. Which, again, he has other connections. It doesn't just have to be Todd Monken. And no, he would not go to Greg Roman. I don't think Harbaugh wants to take that type of risk knowing the circumstance he is. If that ends up being the case, everything I'm saying right now becomes null and void. But I don't think he's going to go back to Roman. I just don't see that happening. Similarly, I wonder if Tomlin needed coaches next year or wait. He's not coaching next year. He's just going to take a year off. He may go to TV next year. Thank you. We're rooting for you guys. Go hire Flores or Minter and turn it around. I want Lamar to win the Super Bowl. He deserves it, and I've been a big supporter of his since he came out. Hopefully we can get it done. Hopefully we can. Oh, yeah, Tree's doing as well. I did see Tree definitely point that out. Again, it's all about what they're looking to do. And Tree's just pointing out the obvious. Like, they're a team that's blowing leads, and you get a head coach that blew a lot of leads and was known for that. So you got a team that was blowing a lot of leads last year, and you got a head coach that's blowing a lot of leads. That's probably not the most. That's not probably not the most opportune of pairings. But at the end of the day, the goal is to build stability one way or another. This team's not expected to compete for a title next year. They're trying to build stability. Let's see. Harbaugh isn't a bad coach. He's just a bit overrated, and that's fine. That's fine. It'd still be better than anything the Giants have had since Coughlin, which is what they're looking for. Giants fans who said we had a good year about to find out. Again, chaos with that aspect. Their goal is to just get stability. If they win 8 games next year with Harbaugh, that's a huge successful season for them. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking to just jump year one into a Super Bowl. They know that's not going to happen. It's two different sports, but it sort of reminds me of the Knicks firing Tom Thibodeau last year to hire Mike Brown to contend for a finals. Also helps that the Eastern Conference is just wide open. Though the Knicks aren't performing the way people thought they were, and the Celtics are still finding a way to win games with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum might come back, but that's a different story. But yeah, they did move off of off of Thibodeau because things were stagnant, and it was unfortunate for that because I mean Thibodeau got you to the Eastern Conference Finals and then they move off of him. I don't know. Maybe after that, if they would have blown in the second round again, sure. But after that, it's kind of like, they weren't heading in the wrong direction. It seemed like they were heading in the right direction. But I get why they made that decision. Think he will definitely help the Giants become a stable franchise again. That is the goal. There's just concerns about him. I do hope he does well in New York and has a good time there. Yeah, and we're gonna get into some of those pros and cons. As long as you guys have Lamar Jackson, you always have a chance to win, but he's got to get past Mahomes and Allen, especially with better overall teams than them. Yeah, I would love to do another aspect of a conversation there because everyone brings up the whole he's got better teams, but no one actually seems to watch the game and watch how that team plays. Everyone talks about he's got the better team and look at all these Pro Bowlers. Do you actually watch how these Pro Bowlers play in the playoffs? Have you watched how the teams have played in the playoffs? Keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. The New York Texans. How many was it? 3 turnovers? The New York Texans, I think they had what, 2 or 3. Did they force? Let me see how many turnovers they forced against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me see this real quick. Let me go to against the Steelers. Because they had a pick six and then a fumble return for a touchdown. Did they have? No, that's CJ playing like trash. Okay, so they only had 2 turnovers there. But 2 turnovers. Yeah, they had 2 turnovers. 2 turnovers would match the total amount of turnovers our defense has had with Lamar Jackson as our quarterback in the playoffs. The Buffalo Bills forced 3 turnovers against the Jacksonville Jaguars and won that game. 3 turnovers matches the total amount of turnovers Baltimore's defense has had in the playoffs since 2018. I know a lot of people talk about he's got better teams and they got all these Pro Bowlers, but for some reason, all these Pro Bowlers in these playoff games aren't showing up. We don't get turnovers in the playoffs. And you can't win without turning the ball over. You're just not going to win a title with that. Go look at all the Super Bowl runs. If your defense can't take the ball away, you're just not going to win. You got to force a turnover or something. Yes, you want to be able to make stops, which again, this defense has done a decent job in the playoffs of doing that in a good chunk of these games. I think the best defensive performance we had seen from them was was 2023, both in the division round and the AFC Championship game. But legitimately, turnovers are so important because it's not just about taking the ball away and being like, oh, that you're making the stop. It's about giving extra possessions to your offense, especially in the situation where your offense might be struggling. Those extra possessions can matter. The Jacksonville Jaguars, the Buffalo Bills had 3 turnovers that they created. That defense forced 3 turnovers. Those 3 turnovers they forced last week matched the total amount of turnovers our defense has created in the playoffs since 2018. So everyone talks about him having better teams and him having all these Pro Bowlers, but all of a sudden everyone wants to get silent as a mouse when those Pro Bowlers don't show up in the playoffs and they don't do anything. So where's all those Pro Bowlers when it comes to playoff time and they ain't showing up? We could talk about Lamar having the better team and these Pro Bowlers, but for some reason, they get in these Pro Bowlers and this better team, they get in these moments in the playoffs, and then they just disappear. And then we just look at Lamar and blame him for all of this. And yes, Lamar plays a role in this too because he's turned the ball over a lot in the playoffs. Though he hasn't turned the ball over as like there's a difference between Lamar Jackson with Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson with Greg Roman. That's a whole conversation for a different stream, not here. But legitimately, we talk about Lamar having these better teams in the playoffs, but no one mentions that the teams that their opponents they're going up against, they don't turn the ball over at all, and they're doing simple things. And then the team that Lamar is with, everybody's doing something stupid besides Lamar in some of these cases, and all these Pro Bowl guys ain't doing anything. So when you have a team that doesn't lift up their quarterback, especially a guy like Lamar who's making mistakes in the postseason, what are you supposed to do with that? We watched CJ Stroud do everything in his power to hand the game to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He fumbled the ball 4 times. He turned the ball over 3 times, 2 fumbles and an interception. 3 turnovers for CJ Stroud. And his team had his back because his defense forced 2 turnovers that both went for touchdowns. People talk about CJ Stroud having 3 playoff wins. Do you know that CJ Stroud, the total amount of touchdowns CJ Stroud has is the same amount of total touchdowns his defense has? CJ Stroud's defense has the same amount of touchdowns in the playoffs that CJ has had himself. That is what it means to play as a team. Even when your quarterback's not playing his best, you're a team. Your teammates should be able to lift your quarterback up if he's not at his best. But we have never once been able to sit back and say Lamar's teammates have lifted him up when he's played at his poorest. When Lamar's played at his best in the playoffs, we've dominated. We've seen 2 moments where Lamar's played at his best in the playoffs. And in both those games, we won by double digits. Last year in the wildcard round against the Steelers, and in 2023 in the divisional round against the Texans. When Lamar plays at his best, we dominate. But if Lamar is not at his best and he's making mistakes, there's nobody on this team to lift him up. But we've watched all these teams. This past wildcard weekend, all these quarterbacks turned the ball over multiple times and won. Caleb turned the ball over multiple times. His team uplifted him and made plays in the 4th quarter. Drake May turned the ball over multiple times. His team was able to overcome that and uplift him to help him win. CJ turned the ball over multiple times. His team was able to overcome that, lift him up, and win the game. That's what it means to be a team. But go back and look at these playoff games. Name me the moments where you're watching when Lamar's making mistakes and the defense is responding by lifting him up, or his fellow companions on the offense are responding by lifting him up. Where was that last year in the divisional round? When Lamar turned the ball over twice in the first half, all I saw the defense do was fold in that first half. They didn't make stops. They just gave up points. And then when Lamar regained his composure and played in a brilliant second half, guess what happened? His teammates folded. What did Mark Andrews do? Fumble the ball. What did Mark Andrews do? Drop a 2-point conversion. No one's talked about how Lamar has been a massive improvement in the playoffs over the last 2 years he's been there. He has had great performances in the postseason over the last 2 years. And there's a stat that's going out, which again, you could go look on Twitter. He's been one of the best playoff performers since 2023. And nobody talks about that. When they've asked him to answer the calls, he has. The only time he hasn't technically answered the call was in the AFC Championship game. And guess what happened? Zay Flowers fumbled the ball, which everyone forgets. That would have made it a 3-point game at the beginning of the 4th quarter. Why is it that all these other players and all these other teams can lift their quarterback up when he makes mistakes, but we watch the Ravens, and when Lamar makes mistakes, it's game over because nobody's there to lift him up? It's supposed to be a team game, and there's nobody there to lift the quarterback up. Tom Brady's won rings where he's made mistakes and turned the ball over. But there's been guys there to lift him up. Tom Brady in that massive comeback against the Falcons. Everybody remembers the moment where we thought the game was over. Tom Brady threw a pick 6, tried to make a stop, got immediately trucked down, and it was taken to the house for a pick 6. We thought the game was over, and Brady was playing poor in that game. But guess what? Guys made plays. The defense locked up. They forced a turnover. Defense locked up in that second half. They forced a fumble on Matt Ryan. Who was it? Who made that impressive catch? Who made that impressive catch when it was almost picked, right? It was almost picked by a Falcons play when Brady threw it up. It was almost picked. I think it was Edelman that caught the ball between somebody's legs. Guys are making plays. It's a team game. When your quarterback's not at his best, the team should be there to help lift up their leader. We've not seen that with the Ravens in the Lamar Jackson era. We've not seen that once. Patrick Mahomes in the first half of Super Bowls has been terrible. But guess what? He's been clutch in the second half. And guess what has happened in those second halves? His defense has stepped up and made stops, shutting down the offense. His offensive players that people have trashed because, fairly so, they're not great weapons. They stepped up and made plays. They stepped up and made plays for their quarterback. When your quarterback's not playing his best, it is a team game. You hope the teammates will be able to lift up their leader when he's not at his best. But we have yet to see that with the Ravens with Lamar Jackson. If Lamar does not play perfect, there's no one there to lift him up because the defense folds and the offense makes mistakes right next to him. And that's been a problem. So everyone that talks about Lamar having these great teams, not being able to get over the hump, no one ever seems to mention the fact that we're watching other quarterbacks win playoff games where they're not playing their best, but their teammates lift them up. But for Lamar, never seen that. Never seen that. The closest we got to see his teammates lifting him up when he's at his worst was the AFC Championship game. And as someone that has called out Lamar on that and puts the primary blame on Lamar and Todd Monken for that loss because our offense did not show up, and Todd Monken again recently took full responsibility for that again. Lamar and Todd Monken were the two primary peoples I looked at there because the defense was able to lift him up and by stopping Mahomes and that offense from scoring a single point in the second half. So the defense, for the first time in his career, I saw the defense lift him up in that playoff game, in the AFC title game. But guess what? Where was his offensive players to lift him up? Oh, I know where they were. It was Zay Flowers fumbling the ball at the goal line. Where are these players to make the plays? We've seen it with the all-time greats. When the all-time great quarterback's not having his best of moments, there's teammates there to lift him up, and they make those plays. For the Ravens, we haven't seen those plays be made. If Lamar's at his worst, everybody's at their worst. If Lamar's at his best, everybody's at his best. I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. So I feel that this is not about Lamar and the Ravens. I didn't want to go on that tangent, but it's just every time someone brings up Lamar having better teams in the playoffs, they fully forget to bring the context of the fact that nobody else shows up alongside. Like, if Lamar doesn't play well and he's not perfect, they don't win. These other guys aren't showing up. AFC Championship game was on the coaching staff. Yeah, I primarily blame Todd Monken. They didn't run the ball. That was a Todd Monken thing, which he took responsibility for. But there was also plenty of moments in the game where Lamar Jackson just did not take off when the lane was there. And there were plenty of throws that Lamar missed that he had not missed all season, which he has to take responsibility for. And again, the stupidest throw he's made in his entire career, that throw into triple coverage. Don't tell me about a pass interference. If you are throwing a ball with the hopes that the ref's going to bail you out, you are already making a mistake. If you are throwing a pass with the hope that the ref's going to bail you out, you've already failed because they're not going to bail you out in that moment. That throw in the triple coverage was the dumbest throw he made in his entire career, and I stand by it. So I have to give a good chunk of it. I still hold him accountable for that because him and Todd Monken were supposed to be working together. We saw them make the adjustments a week prior against the Houston Texans in the division round. They made the adjustments, but against Kansas City, they couldn't make the adjustments. So I gotta hold the quarterback and the offensive coordinator responsible for how that offense played. I got to. I absolutely have to. And I'll stand by that. I took a lot of heat from Ravens fans when I said what I said after the AFC Championship game. But I'm gonna stand by my statements. Anyway, that's a whole tangent about another thing. We could definitely have a conversation about that because I think people never seem to point out, despite the fact that they have all these Pro Bowlers and this great team, those guys never seem to show up when we need them to show up in the playoffs. They never seem to be able to create turnovers. And most importantly, when Lamar is not playing at his best, they're never there to lift him up. But that's beside the point. By the way, pointing this out, 2 of the 3 wins that C.J. Stroud has in his playoff career, he hasn't played. I think he's thrown 2 touchdowns. Let me look at his stats from last year against the Chargers. They beat the Chargers 32-14. Wait, yeah, they beat the Chargers 32-12. CJ Stroud in that game was 22 of 33, 282 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. So let me point this out here. Let me see if I can pull up ESPN. Because I'm gonna be honest, there's only been one playoff game where CJ Stroud has actually been the primary man or the primary guy that just took over, and he's the reason they won. That was the game against Cleveland. He took over that game, and he's the reason they won. But against the Chargers last year, he is not the reason the Texans won. He's not. He's not the. He also fumbled the ball in that game, but he didn't lose it. So he turned the ball over once against the Chargers. C.J. Stroud had one touchdown pass and one interception and a passer rating of 90. You know why they were able to beat the Chargers last year? Because the defense picked off Herbert 4 times, 4 interceptions. So 4 turnovers from his defense, while he had an interception and a touchdown in that game. 4 interceptions by that Houston Texans defense last year. This year, 2 turnovers, a fumble, and a pick. So let me get this straight. Actually, let me pull up some of this aspects here too. Hold on for a second, because I forgot to speak about that. Yeah, I was looking for that. So in the 2 playoff games, because C.J. Stroud had a touchdown and an interception against the Chargers, and then last week against the Steelers this year in the playoffs, he had a touchdown and an interception against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just making sure I have that here. Just have to make sure, because he had a touchdown. So let me put this here for you to understand about C.J. Stroud here. C.J. Stroud, in 2 of his 3 playoff wins, in the 2 playoff wins last year against the Chargers, this year with the Steelers, C.J. Stroud has thrown 2 touchdowns, and he's turned the ball over 4 times. 2 total touchdowns and 4 total turnovers, but his defense has created 6 turnovers in those 2 playoff wins. That is a team that's lifting up their quarterback when he's not playing his best. But in this era without context, C.J. Stroud has 3 playoff wins because he's the reason. Even though in 2 of the 3 games, he's not the reason they won. They beat the Chargers because the defense picked off Herbert 4 times. They beat the Steelers because the defense forced 2 turnovers and returned them for touchdowns against the Pittsburgh Steelers. C.J. Stroud was not the reason they beat the Steelers. C.J. Stroud was not the reason they beat the Chargers. But in this era where we give all the praise to the quarterback and give all the critique to the quarterback, they just say C.J. Stroud's got 3 playoff wins. And they try to bolster it up as if he's the reason. When in actuality, his touchdown to turnover ratio is 2 touchdowns to 4 turnovers and 2 playoff wins. And his defense in those 2 playoff wins forced a total of 6 turnovers. But it's C.J. Stroud that has those 2 playoff wins. You see why I hate this modern day discourse? We don't really give context to things. And I'm not even bringing that up specifically because I'm like it's a Lamar thing. I saw people trying to take shots at Dak when Dak's circumstance has been entirely different to C.J. Stroud's. If Dak's defense forced 4 turnovers in a playoff game and he lost, that's a different conversation for a different day. But that's not what's been happening. But that becomes a whole nother conversation with a whole nother situation, and it becomes so problematic, man. That's why I just hate discourse today. It's supposed to be a team game, but we don't actually assess the teams. We just give all the credit to the quarterback and put all the blame on them. And then you have all these clickbait accounts that are going to throw things out there, knowing people aren't going to look at the context and just pretend everything's great. 2 of the 3 playoff wins C.J. Stroud's performed so far. 2 touchdowns and 4 total turnovers. Meanwhile, in those 2 playoff wins, his defense forced 6 turnovers and took 3 of those back for touchdowns. But again, it's whatever, right? Like, I don't know. Let me get back to answering some of these questions. Let's see. Where was I? 2023 was your best chance to win a ring. I mean, it was our best chance in this John Harbaugh era, but it is what it is. That drop toss to Mark Andrews last year was Ravens' best chance. No, the best chance was 2023. They weren't beating Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. They weren't good enough. That defense was not good enough. Don't see a Super Bowl in the near future. Good regular season though. Again, we'll have to see whatever changes they make with the coaching staff. The window still can be open. It's still open for them, which is why they've made these changes because they don't want to waste this aspect. But yeah, the opportunity's still there. They can definitely. Again, it just depends on what moves they make and what coaching staff they bring in. The AFC Championship game against Kansas City was crucial. If Zay Flowers doesn't taunt and man, if it wasn't for that fumble, I don't know how that game would have gone because it would have been a 3 point game. And with the way the defense was playing, if we can get the ball back with a 3 point game, everybody calms down. But Zay Flower fumbling the ball is what caused Lamar to press and throw that stupid pick. But it is what it is. Last year, even if Mark Andrews caught the ball, it would have been tied. Buffalo still could have won with a field goal, which they would because our defense wasn't stopping a nosebleed. They weren't stopping the run, and they couldn't handle the offensive line. They for sure would have gotten the field goal range. But we never got to see what could have unfolded. That's true. Should have got fired for keeping the trainer was hurting players. Yeah, I remember those days. That was not a good aspect. Oh yeah, Antonio Pierce was the Raiders coach at that time when we lost to them in 2024. If Steve Biscotti EC nailed this hire, I would say they're the best owner and GM right now. I don't know if I could sit back and say EDC is the best GM. I think Howie still own that because of the success of the Eagles. Do you think Derrick Henry stopped fumbling, or should the Ravens draft a backup running back instead? They're going to continue to look to draft a running back one way or another because of some of the injury history that's happened with Justice Hill, Rashid Ali, and even Keaton Mitchell. So they're gonna try to look to get a back. They usually do so. And Derrick Henry fumbled the ball 4 times. That was just it this year. Granted, it's more than we normally see from him, but yeah, he had fumbled the first 3 games. And then the fourth time he fumbled against New England. So yeah. But I don't really think it's going to be an issue for him moving forward. But we'll see how things go. When do you think the Ravens will hire their new head coach? Well, they said they're treating this like a 2 to 3 year. It's a 2 to 3 year evaluation. 2 to 3 year. My God, it's a 2 to 3 week evaluation. It's kind of like a draft evaluation where they take a few weeks to kind of assess this. So honestly, they're gonna take 2 to 3 weeks. They're gonna go through the rest of their candidates. They're gonna slowly break this down and bring it to about 4 or 5 people that they like. Then they're gonna call up Steve and Lamar, and they're gonna go do that next process. And then over time, they're gonna figure out who they want as their main candidates, and then they're gonna pick one from there and make their choice. So it's gonna take a couple weeks. This isn't something that they want to do quickly and overnight. It's going to take a process. And again, if Lamar, which again he said he's going to, if he takes up that offer, if he takes up that offer from Steve to be a part of these interview processes, and that means a lot of these candidates, the final candidates that are going to be here, are essentially going to be pitching to the franchise quarterback while he's there. Being a part of the interview process. So this is going to take a while. I don't want them to rush this. There's no reason to rush this because they're going to have to bring in a new head coach who's going to bring in an entirely new coaching staff. They need to take their time with this. They've got to nail this hire. They absolutely have to nail this hire. They can't afford to fail to do so. Where was I? Do you think Harbaugh will get Zachary Orr? No, I do not think that would be the case. Good to see you doing good, Sam. He probably will bring Zach Orr to coach defense. I don't think he's going to do that. Again, the conversations right now is Anthony Weaver. I don't think he's bringing Zachary Orr. Giants were blowing lead all this season, and then they decided to get a coach who's famous for blowing leads, and they paying him $20 million. Bro was blowing leads since his first season as a coach. Again, they brought him here for stability. The blowing leads thing is obviously a concern for both sides, but they more so the focus is stability. They're not bringing John here to win a Super Bowl year one. That's not the goal. It's to bring back stability to an organization that's been missing it since Tom Coughlin's been there. So they bring him here for stability and then hope to build off of that. But we'll see how things go. The easy 2 wins are over, Cowboys. We'll see how that goes. I honestly don't know how things are gonna, go between those two teams. John Harbaugh is a floor riser. The Giants will be competitive and will compete for that division crown while he's there. They're also going to blow several leads they have no business blowing. Whatever happens, happens. But he's there to build stability. If they can become competitive again, they will take it 100%. Pacers beat the Knicks. That's cool. That's cool. So it is what it is. Off topic, but did you see the graph on quarterback play in the playoffs since 2023? I did, Jay. In fact, I did reference it here when I was going on my rant about, the fact that the players never seem to be able to uplift Lamar Jackson. Um, I remember the Shaq Thompson and Cole Bishop picks and the stop on fourth down. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, all these quarterbacks are making mistakes, and their teams are bailing them out, like Caleb and Purdy last year. Last week. Caleb turned the ball over multiple times. His team bailed him. His team was able to uplift them, and they won as a unit. Purdy made multiple mistakes. His team was able to uplift them and make stops and win the game. Caleb, Purdy, CJ, Drake, all turned the ball over multiple times, still won the game because they have teammates that can uplift them and support them in these moments. We don't see that happening with Lamar. If he makes mistakes in the playoffs, game over. The two of his three playoff wins, he didn't turn the ball over once, and it was the two best games he had played. It's just Lamar, if he makes a mistake in the playoffs, is game over because there's no one there to uplift him. I don't know why that's the case, but, that's why they're making changes. That's exactly why they're making changes right now. What's good, Jeremiah? I appreciate you stopping by. CJ Stroud is better than Justin Herbert, in my opinion. That will be an interesting debate. I mean, based off of their resumes, conversation could be had. But both of them have not really performed well in the playoffs. Although CJ's best game is better than Justin Herbert's best playoff game, and CJ's actually won in the playoffs, unlike Justin Herbert, who's 0-3. He's 0-3, and CJ's 3-2. Even MVS had a clutch catch in the AFC Championship. Yeah, he caught that pass on, it was like 3rd and 8 to decide who's going to the Super Bowl. If the defense makes that stop there, they get the ball back to Lamar for one last chance to try to tie the game up and send it to overtime, but the defense couldn't make a stop at that point. Yeah, I remember David Tyree. He didn't have any stats. Yeah, I remember David Tyree. He stepped up in the Super Bowl and made that play. I remember David Tyree. And I remember the story, yeah, about Tyree having that terrible practice, and it made people, it may make some concerns that, hey, man, he might not be able to do anything in the game. But Eli said, bro, he's going to show up in the game, and he did. Yep, I remember the Julian Edelman catch. We referenced that, too, when we talked about the Brady in some of these games. So with a new coach now, like Robert Saleh and Brian Flores, or the She'll-Has guy, can they be the ones to keep this team disciplined in the playoffs and keep their heads high, even if there are mistakes? Dude, if they get Brian Flores, that's a disciplinary guy. He's going to keep them disciplined. Brian Flores does not mess around with those things. Dolphins players didn't like it. Tua certainly didn't like it, but that is a guy that's going to be disciplined. By the way, I hope these players realize a lot of the things that they were getting away with John Harbaugh, that's not going to fly with the new guy. If they get Brian Flores, all the leniency and leeway they had, that's ending. I hope they realize that. I really do hope they realize that. For the fans that are saying the Ravens, man, you Ravens fans don't know how good you had it. No. Those Ravens players don't know how good they had it. A lot of leeway that John Harbaugh was giving them. You get a disciplinary guy there, it's going to change everything. Now you guys got to lock in. A lot of things y'all were getting away with, they ain't going to fly with the new head coach. Just letting y'all know that, players. Unfortunate for Wes Welker, but it is what it is. Welker was pretty good for them. He was pretty good for them. A lot of these quarterbacks aren't really taking over games like that because it's not common to see quarterbacks taking over playoff games. What you've been seeing from Mahomes and what you've been seeing from Allen is not what you normally see from quarterbacks in the playoffs. That's why, again, with Josh Allen, it's a whole entirely different conversation. Like, really, I'm serious. If they lose this week if they don't make the Super Bowl, I don't care if they could beat the Broncos this week. If they lose next week to the Texans or the Patriots, I'll still say the same thing. This team, if they don't get to the Super Bowl, you got to move off of Sean McDermott. Do you understand? Josh Allen has historical playoff numbers, and he's got 8 playoff wins now. You're telling me a guy's got historical playoff numbers, 8 playoff wins, and hasn't sniffed the Super Bowl? That's not a good look for an organization at all. And then people go start looking at them and say, well, are you just getting these stats off of bad teams? Like, what's going on with you? Are you actually built for the biggest moments or what? They're gonna look at Josh Allen the way they looked at Matthew Stafford in Detroit. Playoff Josh Allen will be looked at like Matthew Stafford in Detroit. Great numbers, but can't get over the hump. So I'm saying the opportunity's here, man. They got Denver this week. I got the Broncos because again, I have reasons for me to pick the Broncos from a team perspective. Again, I like that defense. I like what they have offensively. I always might make my assessments from a team to team thing. I don't do it like, oh, they got the better quarterback, so I'm picking them. Now, Josh Allen can go superhero mode and make this interesting, and I think he will. But I don't know if him doing that would be fully enough to get everything done. But we'll see what happens. I'm interested in seeing what Sean Payton's game plan is going to be for Josh Allen. He's certainly been running his mouth in the media, so people are actively hoping for the Broncos to lose. But that's a different conversation for a different stream. Um, but we'll see what happens. Oh yeah, they would have definitely beaten the Niners, dude. I still hold on to that. Dude, the 2023 NFC Championship game was between the Niners and the Lions. Baltimore thrashed both those teams in the regular season. I fully believed. I fully believed. I fully believed. We beat the Chiefs. We were going to win the Super Bowl. I said it all week leading up to the AFC title game. The winner of that AFC championship game was going to win the Super Bowl. Doesn't matter what the Niners did. Didn't matter what the Lions did. The winner of the AFC championship game was going to win the Super Bowl. And I was 100% correct because the Chiefs won it. I was just hopeful that my team would have been the one in the Super Bowl instead of the Chiefs. But, it is what it is. Ravens should get the Seahawks offensive coordinator or Dable. So, yeah, either Brian Dable or Clint Kubiak. We'll see how things go with that. They're going to get an offensive-minded coach. Lamar's going to choose an offensive coordinator as head coach. Whatever they go with is whatever they go with. If it's what Lamar wants and it's what's best for the team, you go with it. You give him what he wants, and we see what happens. Ex-players on TV are the worst when it comes to modern discourse because they understand what gets clicks. Nobody cares if you want to really lock in and focus in on the teams as a whole. The talking point is the quarterback. The superstar quarterbacks is what you talk about. So, yeah, nobody seems to care about anything else. But it is what it is. Ravens just finished interviewing Mike McDaniel. Did they put that out? See, you guys know I'm on stream right now, so it's not like I can look at that. Because, yep, they did. I just saw it here. We have completed an interview with Mike McDaniel for a head coaching position. Just want to let you guys know right now, like, in case you didn't know, which I'm pretty sure they also said in the press conference, all these people that the Ravens are interviewing, not every single one of these guys they're interviewing for a head coaching position. And I'm pretty sure they've been transparent with these guys because the Ravens are getting a brand new coaching staff. They're going to get a new head coach, but they need a new offensive coordinator and they need a new defensive coordinator. This staff is going to be gone. So a lot of these people they're interviewing, they're probably going to be called back up for the offensive coordinator job. Now, for me, Mike McDaniel, I want him to be my offensive coordinator if we can get him. So them interviewing him, which, by the way, someone posted a picture earlier today of Mike McDaniel at the airport heading to Baltimore. So we knew he was going to interview with them. In my opinion, Mike McDaniel, I want that guy to be my offensive coordinator. I want that guy to be my offensive coordinator. I want my guy, Lamar Jackson. I want my guy, Derrick Henry. I want my guy, Zay Fly. I want these guys to be able to operate in a Mike McDaniel offense. So I want this to be my offensive coordinator more than a head coach. I wouldn't be mad if he ended up being the next head coach, but I would prefer if he was my offensive coordinator. I'm trying to fix both things. I've been saying it. If you end up getting an offensive-minded head coach like Clint Kubiak, I don't think you get a Mike McDaniel as your offensive coordinator because Kubiak calls plays, and he's going to want to call plays as a head coach. That's his strength. So I don't think him and Mike McDaniel will be a good mix. But if they're trying to fix both things, you end up getting a defensive-minded head coach like you get Brian Flores or Robert Salah or Jesse Minter, then your offensive coordinator automatically has to be Mike McDaniel. And we've already heard the reports that, Mike McDaniel would prefer to take a great offensive coordinator job over a mid to bad head coaching job. And with me hearing that, there was a report that said Mike McDaniel would prefer taking a great offensive coordinator job over taking a mid to bad head coaching job. And when I heard that, that makes me think he would end up taking this job even more as the offensive coordinator. If they told him in this interview right now, we're considering you for head coach, but we really want you as our offensive coordinator, Mike will be fine with that. I honestly think he would. There's not a better place for him to go from an offensive standpoint. Being able to utilize Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, that would be a masterful dream for him. The second best place for him to go from an offensive standpoint is Detroit. So, in all honesty, if Mike McDaniel is taking an offensive coordinator position, there's really two places, technically three now, because I think Philadelphia fired the offensive coordinator. You either go Baltimore with Lamar and Derrick Henry, you go Detroit with Sonic and Knuckles. Also, they got a bunch of talent in the receiving core alongside Jared Goff. You can do a lot of, and the funny thing about it is the Lions love to get creative. So imagine the level of creativity that both Mike McDaniel and Dan Campbell can come up with the offense. That would be a dream come true for Lions fans. But again, the Lions, their issue isn't offense. Their issue is the defense. That's really what needs to be addressed more than the offense, but that's a different conversation for a different day. So yeah, I would say Baltimore, Detroit, and Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown if he's still here next year. So those are the only three places I see him going. I don't see him going anywhere else to be an offensive coordinator. It wouldn't make sense. So Baltimore, Detroit, or Philadelphia. And I hope Baltimore gets him as our offensive coordinator. But we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see how things go. He doesn't have the final say. I'm saying he has the final say, but he hasn't the final. He doesn't. I'm not saying he has the final say. I'm saying he's going to have a huge say. He's going to have a huge say in terms of impacting it. But of course, we know Steve has the final say in the pick because he is the owner. So he's going to pick the final choice. Now, in terms of the coordinator, honestly, I think Lamar has a say in the quarter. Like the pick for the offensive coordinator, that's Lamar. Because Steve said in terms of coordinators, he's leaving that up to EDC and everybody else. In terms of the head coach is the only one Steve said he's going to pick. In terms of coordinators, he's leaving it up to the new head coach. He'll leave it up to EDC and Lamar and the others. But the head coach is the only one he's here to pick. Everything else, that goes to EDC and the new head coach and Lamar to deal with. I think we're doing this the right way. Can't make a hasty decision here. Yeah. True, Brian Flores is bringing the house down for sure. Flores is the guy we need, or Salah. Either way, fire McDermott. Yeah, see, here's my thing. I know who can you find that's better. This is the thing that we have to understand. We always want to do this aspect of who can we find that's better. The focus should never be about who can we find that's better. The main focus really should be who can we find that's going to bring something different to the table. Because again, it's not always getting the better option. Getting a different option could potentially lead to better results. And sometimes you got to understand that when it comes to coaching. You may get rid of a better coach. Philadelphia got rid of Andy Reid because they needed a different look. And yes, they immediately made a mistake with Chip Kelly. But then they corrected it by getting Doug Peterson and they won a Super Bowl. And then they moved off of Doug Peterson for Nick Sirianni and won another Super Bowl. Again, sometimes it's not always about finding the better head coach. It's about finding a different aspect, a different coaching philosophy, a different look that may be what the team needs to get over the hump. When I'm talking about firing Sean McDermott, I'm talking about the fact that they've had, just like the Ravens, they've had their opportunities to go and win this thing, and they have fallen short. And each and every time that they've fallen short, the primary reason they have fallen short has been because of the defense. Guess who's a defensive-minded head coach for the Bills? Sean McDermott. His defense has failed time and time again in these games. If they fail again and they can't get to the Super Bowl again, you have to have those conversations because now it becomes a level of consistent complacency. It's the same story. We're not moving. We're not changing. If Sean McDermott's going to be here for this defense and the defense never shows up in the playoffs, maybe you want to look somewhere else. That's why I would say you would want to move off of Sean McDermott. Because if the same thing keeps happening year in, year out, then something needs to change in Buffalo. It doesn't mean he's not a great coach, but the way things are going has to change. And he's unlike the conversation with Harbaugh, Sean McDermott is a defensive-minded coach. The Buffalo Bills defense is his defense, and they always fold in the playoffs. If they do that again this year, you have to start having these questions about maybe moving on from Sean. It's not like you're going to find somebody better, but maybe a different voice can change things up. But something's got to change because Josh Allen's another guy that's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And he's got 8 playoff wins and has historic playoff numbers. If he doesn't sniff a Super Bowl, that's not going to be a good look for Buffalo. So that's where that conversation comes with Sean McDermott. But again, I'm not a Bills fan. I don't follow the Bills as much as the actual fans do. So that's something they would have to really answer. I think Buffalo beats Denver 17-10, similar to the Chiefs-Ravens championship. I don't see that being the score. However, if we were to potentially get a Denver and Patriots AFC Championship game, that would actually be the score I would pick for that. If the Patriots and the Broncos meet up in the AFC title game, that 17-10 score, I would pick that. Or maybe 17-13. Just depends on how things would go here. Hey. So we'll see how things go. Lost the AFC Championship game as soon as they fumbled at the goal line. After that, I knew it was over. Yeah, we all knew it was over after that. Um, Over half the league wants McDaniel. That's cool. Over half the league wants McDaniel. In reality, he's only going to go to the best spots. He'd rather take a great offensive coordinator position than a mid to bad head coaching job. Because again, he just came off of Miami. Why would he go to Cleveland? That probably wouldn't be a good place for him to go. Why would he go to Tennessee? That wouldn't be the best fit for him right now. I don't think he wants to go take on another project. Because now it's like, okay, well, you got to work with Shador in Cleveland, or you got to work with Cam Ward in Tennessee, and those situations aren't exactly the best right now in terms of the team as a whole. I don't think he wants to get right back in that carousel after dealing with Tua for like 4 or 5 years. I don't think you want to do that again. So he would probably prefer to take a great offensive coordinator position, whether it's with Baltimore, which I personally want that to be the case, or in Detroit or in Philadelphia. Those are the three spots I'm thinking he's going to go. It's one of those. I'd be shocked if he takes a head coaching position with Tennessee or Cleveland over just being the offensive coordinator for one of these three elite teams or elite offenses for the most part. Yeah. You think Todd Monken will go with John or become a head coach in Atlanta? Depends on what he wants to do. Does he want to be a head coach? That's the thing. If he wants to still just be an offensive coordinator and call plays for the offense, then yeah, he'll go take the job with John. If he still wants to be an offensive coordinator, he will go take the job with John. If he wants to be a head coach, and there's a team out there that wants him to be their head coach, and they're willing to hire him as a head coach, like potentially Atlanta, he's going to go with it. If he wants to be a head coach, he's going to be a head coach. If he wants to call plays and not be a head coach, he'll go join John in New York. So I think it just depends on what Todd Monken wants, which right now I don't know. If he wants to just be a play caller, he'll go to New York. If he wants to be a head coach, if Atlanta offers him the job, he'll take it. So it's really just depends on what Todd Monken wants. As a Browns fan, I would love Joe Brady if the Bills do go all the way, or possibly Clint or Clay Kubiak. Well, I mean, there's a lot of coaching commodities out here. We'll just have to wait and see how things go. Anyway, give me a second here, guys. I will be right back. Just got to do this real quick. All right. Caught up with the comments here. At least the Cowboys will finish last in the NFC East now. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But all right, so I've went through the comments here. Appreciate the comments. Appreciate the questions and stuff. But now it is time for me to sit back and speak to the Giants fans. I am here to give you, like the title says, I am here to give you the pros and the cons of John Harbaugh so that you can understand what you are getting from John Harbaugh as the head coach of your football team. So, I always like to start from the positive side. Let's speak on the pros of John Harbaugh. Well, Giants fans, what should you expect from John Harbaugh? This is a guy that is a lot like a CEO type of head coach. He is going to come to New York and he is going to bring a level of stability you have not seen since Tom Coughlin. This is a guy that is a player's coach. They are going to rally behind this guy. A lot of these guys are looking for a coach, a voice, a leader that has won and been successful in this league. John Harbaugh is going to bring that to the table for the New York Giants, just based off of his resume. This current gen of Giant players have not had a coach as successful as this. They weren't here during the Coughlin days, so they have not had a coach as successful as this. So you are getting a guy that has won in this league before, a guy that's been successful in this league before, a guy that is a player's coach, a guy that can bring stability. That is what the Giants need right now. It's a perfect fit. It's going to work out because these guys are going to rally towards John. That's a guy that's won here, a coach that's been successful in this league. They're going to rally to him. To make things better in this aspect, they're going to be willing to listen to him. You're not bringing off some coach with no resume or a guy that didn't have success somewhere else that's trying to earn the locker room's respect. This is a proven winner, one of the best coaches in the league. Those young guys have no choice but to respect what he's done and to navigate towards him. That's what they're getting. That's what they're getting from John Harbaugh. A guy that's going to be stability. He's a player's coach. They're going to rally behind him. It's exactly what the New York Giants need. The next thing you get from John, which is another pro, is his overall management with the coordinators. Like we always say, John is as good as his coordinators. And if you've looked at John's career when it comes to picking coordinators, for the most part, he's had a lot of success in picking the right coordinators that best fits the personnel he has. Yes, there are some bad parts in who he's picked. We will get into that. But the guy has had success in picking the coordinators that best fit the personnel he has at the time. That's how he's been successful, because John's not an offensive-minded guy or a defensive-minded guy. He leaves that to the coordinators. So he has to pick the right guys for the offense and the defense in order for them to be successful. And as you've seen throughout his career, because he is a successful head coach, he has picked the right coordinators for those specific moments and has gotten it done. There's been a lot of duds, but there's been a lot of hits as well. So this is a guy that's going to come in. He's going to, from top to bottom, assess that personnel that you got there with the players, and he's going to pick coordinators that he feels will be able to get the very best out of the roster you have. So you're getting a guy that is a player's coach. You're getting a guy that will bring stability back to your franchise. You are getting a guy that knows what he's doing when it comes to bringing in coordinators that best match the personnel he has. You'll also get a guy that is going to have serious input in the drafting situation. He's going to pick guys that best fits whatever he's looking for his team. And if you feel that's the best for what the Giants need, which right now is desperately, yes, that is absolutely what they need. That is desperately the case because they need somebody like that. That's what John's going to bring. So those are the pros for the most part. You are getting one of the best head coaches in the game, a guy that's a proven winner, a guy that is a player's coach, a full-on player's coach and leader of men. A guy that will bring back the stability that this organization has been missing since Tom Coughlin. A guy that has been very successful in picking the correct offensive and defensive coordinators that best fits the rosters he has. A guy that will also partake in the roster construction in terms of the drafting process because he picks guys that best fits what he's looking for. Everything the Giants want from a head coach right now, what they need from a head coach right now, they're going to get that from John. That is the pros. He's always been a CEO type head coach. He doesn't get involved in the offense or the defense. He picks his coordinators, which he's been successful with, and he's a player's coach. He relates to the players. So that group, that locker room there that's looking for a voice from a coaching perspective, that's looking to look up to somebody, John's perfect because he's a proven winner. They're not bringing in somebody that's never won at this level or somebody that's had some minor success or even somebody that's been a head coach before but didn't have any success and failed. You're bringing in a guy that has had a lot of success, an amazing amount of success. They're going to navigate towards him. Obviously, those players in the locker room will navigate towards John Harbaugh, which is exactly what the Giants need right now. So those are the pros, man. He's a player's coach. He brings stability to your franchise. He brings in the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator that best fits the roster he has. And he does have a say in how the roster will be constructed, so he'll speak with the GM and work to get players that he feels best fits what the team needs, which is exactly what the Giants need right now. They need all of this and more. Those are the pros of John Harbaugh. And for an organization that is dysfunctional right now, that's looking for stability, every single pro that I just named is perfect for the Giants. They need that right now. They absolutely need that right now. So those are the pros. Those are the pros. Those are the pros when we talk about John Harbaugh. Let's get to the cons, because that also has to be specified, which again, I think with every head coach, you'll look at the good and the bad with it. It's just part of it. I don't think there's a head coach that's ever been perfect. That's why you don't see a team winning a Super Bowl every single year. You know, I don't think there's an idea as a perfect coach. Even Belichick's won 6 championships. He was never a perfect coach. He made mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. So yeah, let's talk about the cons with John Harbaugh. So John Harbaugh's greatest strength is also his greatest weakness in some aspects. Like I said, John Harbaugh is a CEO type of head coach. He picks his coordinators, and then he leaves everything to the coordinators. Do you know what that means? John Harbaugh is not going to be calling plays at all. He doesn't call plays. He's not an offensive-minded guy. He's not a defensive-minded guy. So in terms of the offense, everything's going to be run by his offensive coordinator. In terms of the defense, everything's going to be run by the defensive coordinator. He's not going to question their actions or decisions. If those coordinators want to do whatever they want and want to call whatever they want, John is 100% with it. We already have the perfect example when he was with Baltimore. Derrick Henry. They were running rotations between Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell in the Patriots game. Most head coaches would the running back coach said, yeah, let's go to Keaton Mitchell on this drive. Most head coaches would have override that and said, no, put Derrick Henry right back out there. We need him to close this game out. John trusted his guys. He trusted his coaching staff to handle the business. He doesn't get involved in that. So instead of telling our running back coach, hey, put Derrick Henry in the game, he sat back and said, do what you got to do. He doesn't get involved. So when it comes to offensive plays, when it comes to play calls in the offense, when it comes to certain coverages in the defense, and those play calls from the defense coordinator, when it comes to that, John has nothing to do with it. John doesn't call plays on the offense. He doesn't call plays on the defense. He has nothing to do with that. He leaves that to his coordinators. In terms of personnel that's out there, he leaves it to those specific position coaches. Which running back's going to be out there? Whoever the running back coach chose. We're running our rotations. Now, again, he has the power to switch that and just say, I'm taking over, which is what he did the following week against the Packers, though many of us pointed that out, that he chose to do that because he was getting crushed by the media, and he knew he had to do that because they could potentially miss the playoffs. So he switched up and said, yeah, let's play Derrick Henry and give him 36 carries. And he told Todd, we're going to keep running the ball. Actually, he didn't even tell Todd about that. Todd actually is the one that spoke up and said, no, I know you want to keep doing rotations. No, get Derrick Henry right back out there and keep running the ball with him. So that wasn't even a John thing. That was more of a Todd thing. But yeah, this is the thing that you got to understand with John. He doesn't call plays on the offense. He's not even involved with the offense. He doesn't call plays on the defense. He's not involved with the defense. He leaves everything up to his coordinators and his staff, which means for most of the game, he's pretty much doing two things. He's making decisions in terms of whether or not they're going to go for it on 4th down or kick field goals, and he's making the decision in terms of what he wants to challenge. Other than that, he's like talking to some of these guys on the sideline and motivating them to stay locked in. But again, he's not going through plays with the receivers or the quarterback on the sideline. That's what the quarterback coach or whoever's doing. He doesn't really, again, he's not involved with the offense. He's not involved with the defense. He doesn't call plays. He is a CEO head coach, which means he just manages things. John Harbaugh's strength is managing things. It also could be his weakness if you are looking for a head coach that will be involved with the offense and defense. John doesn't call plays. He's not involved with the offense. He's not involved with the defense. He just manages the game as a CEO and makes sure everybody is doing what they need to do. He's making sure the offensive coordinator is getting the plays to the quarterback. He's making sure the defensive coordinator is navigating the coverages to whoever's got the mic on the defense, whether it's the middle linebacker or your safety, whoever. He's making sure everybody is doing their job, and he's putting his faith and trust in them to make the right calls, the right plays. That's what he does. So he's not going to, decide I'm going to take over and call plays in this game. He's not going to do that. He's not. That's never been something he's really done in an 18-year career. He's not going to do that. That's not to say he's not capable of doing that. I think any head coach is capable of doing anything involving coaching a team. I just think every coach has their strengths and weaknesses. And it's clear that calling plays for an offense or a defense is not his strength. Because, again, he's not an offensive-minded guy. He's not a defensive-minded guy. This was a former special teams coach that became a head coach. Offense isn't his specialty. Defense isn't his specialty. He has no say in either one of those because he chooses to not have any say. That's not his forte. He leaves it up to the coordinators. So if you're looking for your head coach to be involved with the X's and O's, that's not John Harbaugh. If you're looking for your head coach to get involved with the quarterback in terms of breaking things down and calling certain plays, that's not what you're getting from John Harbaugh. He'll go up to his quarterback and talk to him to make sure he's okay. He'll keep motivating the team and say, man, you know how great you're doing, man? Keep doing it, man. We need that from you. Keep it going. He's a great motivator. He's a great motivator, a great game manager for the most part in terms of managing the aspect. Now, when it comes to decision-making, people will question that because when he was in Baltimore, he loved to throw challenges on plays that shouldn't even be challenged. And we, the people, the fans, can clearly see that shouldn't be challenged. And at times, the commentators would probably call it out and say, it's probably not the best place to challenge that. I'm not exactly sure what they saw in that to challenge it. So he's wasted a lot of time. Oh, yeah. His time management skills are terrible. So one thing Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh share is that their clock management is terrible. They don't know how to manage the clock. And when it comes to running a 2-minute offense, good luck with both of these guys. So that's another negative right there. Their time management skills are very poor. And at times, John's decision-making skills can be very questionable. So keep this in mind. He's not going to get involved with the offense and the defense, but there are certain decisions that will be made. He won't call the play, but if he wants to go for it on 4th down from his own 35-yard line, we going for it on 4th down from our own 35-yard line. And if it doesn't work out, so be it. It is what it is. So again, there's some positives and negatives with him. The cons, again, he's not an offensive mind. He's not a defensive mind. He has no actual. He has no full input in terms of what plays are called or who's going to be out there personnel-wise because he chooses to leave that to everybody else. Obviously, as the head coach, you can make those decisions, but he doesn't call plays for the offense. He doesn't call plays for the defense. So he's not involved in any of that. And when it comes to the personnel that's out there, again, he leaves it up to his coaching staff. Whoever they want to go out there will manage that. So he's not calling plays, and he's not really choosing the personnel that's out there in terms of game time situations. So, yeah, and also, decision-making skills can be very questionable. Time management skills, specifically clock management skills, he's terrible at that. Both him and Mike Tomlin can't manage a clock to save their lives. The 2-minute offense with those two, terrible. So these are just a few things you're going to have to deal with here. Another thing, which again, you can look at this as a positive, which I think you can be a pro and a con depending on the situation. He has an amazing amount of loyalty, an undying amount of loyalty to certain players, certain coach. If he has loyalty towards a coach, he's going to let that coach stay longer than he should because he has complete faith, trust, and belief in them. If there's a certain player that he has complete loyalty and faith in, he's going to keep that player out there no matter what they're doing. We saw this with Greg Roman. We saw this with Daniel Falele. This is what he does. If he likes you and he believes in you, 100% he's backing you up, undying loyalty no matter what. If he doesn't believe in you or he has a problem with you, you're gone. That's what we as Ravens fans have said. He has put certain players in what we've called the doghouse. If he doesn't like what he's seeing from you, you get put in the doghouse. Talent, no talent. It doesn't matter. If he don't like what he's seeing from you, you getting put in the doghouse. The most recent aspect or the most recent member who has been in Harbaugh's doghouse was Ben Cleveland. which I don't want to get into that right now because that was a whole situation with Ben Cleveland and Daniel Faalele. That was a whole situation. But yeah, if he don't rock with that player, they're going in the doghouse, and you're not going to see him play. And you'll question, why is that player not playing? Couldn't they be a better option, or shouldn't they be a better option? No, they're in the doghouse. So because Harbaugh put them in the doghouse, they're not getting out of it. Like I said, Harbaugh's undying loyalty at times ends up putting him and his team in situations that they shouldn't be because he trusted that individual to get it done, and simply that guy's not good enough to do his job. We've seen that with Zachary Orr for this example. Man, we've seen that with Zachary Orr. His defense is failing. He's not really calling it out. He'll ignore it. The media's bringing it up. He goes to defense for Zachary Orr. Won't call him out in these situations. Not at all. And with his undying loyalty to you, he'll do everything in his power to make sure to present that loyalty and help out as much as he can. Zachary Orr was not a good defensive coordinator, yet Harbaugh fully backed him up and was loyal to him. He was loyal to the point where he kept going out and bringing all these other former defensive coaches to try to help. You brought in Chuck, you brought in Dean. You're bringing all these former Ravens defensive coordinators to try to help this guy out because he's just not good at his job. He wasn't ready for that moment. He shouldn't have been a defensive coordinator at the time. He still needed time to grow, but you thrusted him into that spot and you knew he wasn't ready, but you have that loyalty to him. So what do? You go bring in former Ravens defensive coordinators to try to help this guy out when you really shouldn't be doing that in the first place. Just go get somebody else. But that's what Harbaugh will do. If he has an undying loyalty to a certain player, a certain coach, that's just it. He's going to back that person up to death. And if it's somebody he doesn't rock with or doesn't like what he's seeing from them, doghouse immediately. So Giants fans, beware of some of these things. Don't be surprised when the clock management is poor. That's always been happening under John Harbaugh. Don't be surprised where he makes some questionable decisions when it comes to taking certain challenges in certain plays that really shouldn't be challenged. He's always done that. Don't be surprised if there's certain players that you feel should be playing that's not playing for some random reason. They're not hurt. They're just a healthy scratch. Just know that he's in that doghouse. Don't be surprised if there's certain things you're not liking from your coordinator or certain things you're not liking from a certain player, like an offensive lineman, and you're wondering why he's still out there even though he's doing a poor job. That's because he's somebody Harbaugh likes and is loyal to. These are some of the things you're going to get with John Harbaugh. I can sit here and talk about the blown leads, but I think that speaks for itself. These are just the things you get from John Harbaugh, man. These are the things you get from John Harbaugh. He does things his way and his way only. And if you don't like his way, too bad. You can get in the doghouse. So with this new head coach in New York, with John Harbaugh, understand that he's not really going to be helping out with the development. That's another thing. He doesn't develop people. He just oversees the development because he leaves it up to his coordinators and his personal and his assistant coaches to do. A lot of people are sitting back and there's some Giants fans that are on Twitter trying to say John Harbaugh developed Lamar Jackson. That's not true. John Harbaugh did not develop Lamar Jackson. He didn't. Now, if you want to say he's managing the people that helped out with his development, fine. But John Harbaugh did not develop him. There's two people that are responsible for Lamar Jackson's development. That is Lamar Jackson's personal quarterback coach that he's been with his entire career. That's one. And the second person is T. Martin. In actuality, if we're going to talk about the Ravens, the person who's actually helping Lamar's development and the guy that has been developing Lamar is T. Martin. T. Martin's the one that's been developing Lamar. John doesn't sit there and help Lamar with his fun. He's not getting involved with the mechanics that Lamar has worked to improve. That's T. Martin and his personal coach. So T. Martin's the one that's responsible for Lamar Jackson's development in terms of the Ravens. That's nothing to do with John. So he's not developing quarterbacks. He's not developing offensive or defensive schemes. He's not developing any of that. He leaves that to his coordinators. He manages the game. That's it. He manages the game and makes sure everybody's doing what they need to do job-wise. And then he trusts his coaching staff to handle their business and do their job. If he likes you, you're out there. If he doesn't like you, you're in the doghouse. That's just how it is, man. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. Doesn't matter if you're talented or not. If he likes you, you're out there. If he doesn't like you, you're in the doghouse. These are just the things you're going to get with John Harbaugh. So again, it's going to be really fun. Those are pretty much the pros and cons here. Again, he's still a great head coach, and I think he's exactly what the Giants need. But there's going to be a lot of frustrating moments that you may see from John Harbaugh because the guy is stubborn and doesn't move off of his decisions. Don't expect him to develop Jackson Dart. Just hope the person he brings in to help with Jackson Dart's development is the right guy. That's it. I'm telling you right now. Everyone that's trying to sit back and say he developed Lamar, he did not develop Lamar. He had nothing to do with Lamar's development in terms of the actual work that was put in. But if you want to say he brought in the guy in T. Martin that helped him develop, sure. He partaked in the development, but he didn't actually develop anything. That's not his job to do because that's not what he is good at. That's not his strengths. He leaves that to his coordinators and coaches. His strength is bringing in the right guys that fits his personnel. That's going to try to bring the best out of him. That's where his strengths are. But that doesn't mean he hasn't whiffed. Obviously, with Zachary Orr, he did whiff. So, yeah. But development-wise, again, he's not developing He's not developing quarterback, excuse me. That is up to the quarterback's coach and the offensive coordinator to work with the quarterback there. So don't expect him to be doing any of that. Don't expect that. If you think signing John Harbaugh means John's going to directly help with Jackson Dart's development, you're wrong. He's not going to help out. However, what he can do is bring in somebody that will. If you think John Harbaugh is going to be here actually developing Jackson Dart, no. If you think he's going to be coming up with schemes to take advantages of certain defenses, let's come up with these offensive schemes. That's not what he's doing. That's the offensive coordinator's job. If you think he's going to come up with certain coverages, let's run a 4-3 defense instead of a 3-4 defense or whatever. No, he's not doing any of that. That's the defensive coordinator's job. He's not getting involved with it. He's not calling plays. He's not coming up with schemes. He's not pulling any specific plays that he says we should run. He's not developing these players. He's overseeing things and managing it. His coaching style comes from his leadership, but he's not developing anything. He's just trying to lead these guys in the right direction. He's a great motivator. He's a true player's coach, and he can relate to these guys, but he's not there to develop them. He's not going to develop a quarterback. He's not developing your receiving core. He's not going to develop any of your running backs. He's not developing the defense. That's not his job. His job is to bring in the people that will do that, and he will oversee it. There are coaches that get involved with that. Offensive-minded coaches will help with the development of their quarterback. We have seen the very clear case we've seen of that was with Mike McDaniel and Tua. Tua had his best seasons under Mike McDaniel because Mike McDaniel was personally working with Tua alongside the offensive coordinator to help with his development and building a scheme that works towards the strengths of Tua. You're not getting that with John Harbaugh. He's not doing any of that. That's not his specialty. That's not his skill set. He'll bring in somebody to work on that, and he'll move on to see what's happening with everybody else. So, yeah. If you were expecting that, if you were expecting that, and that's what you want out of your head coach, John's not for you. But he's here to build stability, bring in the right coaches for this personnel, and help get you back to a level of relevancy that you have not been with, or at least get back to bringing the level of consistency within stability of your organization. That's what John's here to do. So, yeah, he has his issues. He has his pros and his cons. Overall, I think the cons are problematic, but it's only problematic for a team that's trying to win a Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to be overly problematic for a team that's trying to build stability. So, yeah, those cons are definitely glaring, especially if it's a team that's trying to win a Super Bowl. Those are some very glaring things, especially the fact that he can't manage a clock to save his life. His clock management skills are terrible. His decision-making skills are very poor and questionable. Those are things that can hurt you in games, especially with the clock management thing, because both him and Tomlin can't manage the clock to save their lives. But again, those are for situations in regards to winning a championship. When you're just trying to build stability with an organization, John's perfect for the job. So overall, I think the Giants are in a good place with John Harbaugh. He's going to bring back the stability. But just know there are certain things that you would want from your head coach if he was an offensive-minded or a defensive-minded guy. John's not that, so you're not going to get that from him. He's not going to sit down with Jackson Dart and begin to work with him on the process of his development. No, he's just going to hire an offensive coordinator to do that and leave that to the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach. He's not going to work with that defensive front or the secondary to get them to where they should be, even though their defensive front's been pretty good. But, he's not going to work with the defense to get them back to where they need to be. He's just going to hire a defensive coordinator to do that. He doesn't call plays. He doesn't create schemes. He does none of that. He's not an X's and O's guy. I'm going to lead these players. I'm going to motivate these players. That's my job, and that's what I'm looking to do. So if you're expecting anything else out of Harbaugh, I'm sorry to say, but you're not going to get that other than him managing the game. That's what he does. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of the pros and cons of John Harbaugh. And that's pretty much it for me when it comes to this live stream. Overall, John Harbaugh is what the Giants need right now. John Harbaugh is what the Giants need right now. I think he's going to do a great job. Hopefully, he's able to turn things around and build a level of stability that the Giants have been desperately missing for years. But if there's anything you're specifically looking for from John Harbaugh in terms of developing Jackson Dart, that's not his job. He'll hire somebody to do that. In terms of building up schemes and putting the offense in the best positions by giving them certain plays that work for them, that's not John Harbaugh. He'll leave it to the offensive coordinator. In terms of putting the defense right where they need to be, no, that's not his job. That is not his job. He's here to manage the game, make the decisions on fourth down, make the decision when it comes to challenges, and just overall oversee everybody. He is a CEO type head coach, which is exactly what the Giants need right now. So best of luck, Giants fans. I hope this was able to clear things up for you for the most part. I hope both fan bases were able to get a perspective of each other in terms of where each team is right now. And overall, we'll just have to see how things go. Hopefully Todd Monken, for the Giants' sake, hopefully Todd Monken doesn't take a head coaching job when he goes to the Giants to be your offensive coordinator, because I think Jackson Dart would really benefit from a guy like Todd Monken. I think that would work out for him. That'd be a great fit. But we'll just have to see how things go. We will have to see how things go. We will have to see how things go. Other than that, I don't think there's much for me to say here. Are you streaming the division round of the playoffs? Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to stream every single game, but I will be streaming some. The first of all, Seahawks and Niners, I'm streaming that because, again, it's Clint Kubiak's offense versus Robert Saleh's defense. I'm going to be on scout team to see how both these coordinators go up against each other. So I'll see that. Excuse me, I got hiccups now. I'll see how that goes. Other than that, Rams and Bears, I may stream that as well. The Rams are my Super Bowl pick, so I got to make sure they handle business. Broncos and Bills, I'm not really keen on watching it. I don't really care who wins. If the Bills win, it's because Josh Allen went nuclear. If the Broncos win, it's because Josh Allen wasn't able to carry all of the deficiency. As expected, I don't expect Josh Allen to make up for all the deficiencies the Bills have, but we'll just have to see how things go. By the way, I don't think unless Josh Allen turns the ball over multiple times, Josh will not be the reason for this team's demise if they were to fail. If the Bills fall short, it won't be because of Josh Allen. It'll be because of that defense, like it's always been. Here's what it is, guys. And last but not least, Patriots, Texans, I have no interest in watching that. I have no interest in streaming that. I'll watch it, but that's going to be a defensive game. I have no interest in watching that, bro. That's about to be nasty. But yeah, I don't have any specific picks. I don't have any specific games I want to watch. The Broncos were my pick to go to the Super Bowl. I don't change my picks, especially if my team that I picked is still in the playoffs. So yeah, I picked the Bills. Not the Bills. I picked the Broncos to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC, and I picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC. Those are my picks: the Rams and the Broncos. I said that a month and a half ago. Well, no, I said the Broncos was a month and a half ago. I said that back in November. Back in November, I picked the Broncos to come out of the AFC. But in terms of the Rams, I've been picking the Rams to go to the Super Bowl since the beginning of the year. I picked them to get past the Eagles last year, and had that freaking offensive lineman blocked Jalen Carter, they would have got it done because Stafford would have seen a wide open receiver in the end zone for a touchdown, and I don't know if Jalen Hurts would have been able to take him down the field in the snow. So I just thought the Rams. I said the Rams were the biggest threat to the Eagles last year, and I said they could have beat them, and they nearly did. This year, I said the Rams were probably going to get the job done and get to the Super Bowl and win the championship. So the Rams are my team to win the Super Bowl. They're not just my pick to get there. The Rams are the team I picked to win the Super Bowl. And again, with Stafford and Puka and Devontae Adams and that high-octane offense with Kyron Williams and all the other stuff they have there, I believe they're going to get it done. I have questions about their defense, though. But they get past this round versus Chicago. Guess what they got? Seattle or San Francisco. That's a divisional rival that you know. I feel confident the Rams can get it done against Seattle and San Francisco. I fully feel confident. The fact that the NFC title game, the Rams would have to see one of their divisional foes makes it so perfect for me. Because I know for a fact, against a divisional foe, they'll be able to show up. But getting past Chicago is going to be tough, especially because of how the Bears play in the second half of games. First half, they're terrible. Second half, they always make comebacks. So that's going to be a very dangerous team to face off against, especially since that game's going to be at Chicago. But we'll see if Matthew Stafford's up to the test. He's got to play at his best if they're going to win against Chicago. But the Rams were my Super Bowl pick. I'm picking them. I'm not going to change. I picked them back in the offseason. As for the Broncos, I picked them in November. I'm not going to change my picks. I don't switch my mind. They got the number. I picked them before they even got the number 1 seed. I'm sticking with that. My pick was the Broncos and the Rams in the Super Bowl. I'm sticking with that. We'll see if that ages up. Maybe Buffalo smokes this team or they pull off the upset or whatever you want to look at it. We'll see what happens there. But my pick is the Broncos until they get eliminated, or maybe they make the Super Bowl and it's perfect. And my pick is the Rams until they get eliminated, or they make the Super Bowl and my pick's perfect. We'll see how things go. But yeah, I'll probably stream the Seahawks and Niners game, but I don't know if I'm going to stream the others. I appreciate it. Thank you for the stream. No problem. Bills are my pick. I'm rooting for either them, Texans, Bears, or Niners. Good luck with that. Bills, Bears are my Super Bowl pick. That'd be an interesting one. I don't know if Chicago is going to go all the way. Again, Chicago got very, very lucky against Green Bay. I mean, Caleb made the craziest play of the season on that 4th down play. But they were just, again, the kicker missing multiple kicks. Multiple field goals missing an extra point is why the Packers are sitting home right now. Took a lot of luck to pull that comeback, but they also banded together. I don't think you're going to get that same type of luck against a team like the Rams. So if the Bears struggle against the Rams and they're down big, I don't see a comeback against that team specifically. But if they can stay in the game, they can make things interesting. We'll see. And as for the Bills, again, they are highly dependent on Josh Allen. If he doesn't play his best, they got no chance. And I like what I saw from them against Jacksonville. But again, Trevor Lawrence was handing out meatballs the entire game. Those were terrible throws that he put up in the air. He should have been picked off more than twice. He should have 4, maybe 5 interceptions from that game. But it is what it is. Patriots, Rams, my Super Bowl pick. I also picked the Rams to win it all. Dude, I've been so back and forth with this between the Patriots and the Broncos. It took a lot for me to pick the Broncos, man. Because I trust Drake May more than I trust Bo Nix. And that's where my problem is. Bo Nix, don't trust him. But I just think the Broncos have the better team. The Patriots have the more trustable quarterback. And if we get to an AFC Championship game, because I've been saying this since October, late October, early November, I've been saying it's going to be a Broncos-Patriots AFC title game. I said it was going to be a repeat of the 2015 AFC Championship game between the Broncos and the Patriots. I stick by that. And if it comes down to that, it's going to be such a tough discussion because, I've sat back and said the Broncos got the better team, but the Patriots got the more trustable quarterback. I don't know what's going to happen. So we'll see. If the Broncos get upset, the Broncos get upset. But we're going to find out this weekend. I usually root for the teams that either never win a Super Bowl or I have not seen win one. Well, let's see. In terms of that, Bills never won a Super Bowl. Texans never won a Super Bowl, like you said there. Those are the only two that you would look at in the AFC. In the NFC, everybody's won a Super Bowl. Chicago won one, LA won one, San Francisco's won one, Seattle's won one. They've all won a Super Bowl. So I guess if in this case, if you're gonna root for the teams that are either never win or you haven't seen win one, okay. So Chicago has not won a Super Bowl since '85. None of us have seen them win that one. Seattle won one recently. The Niners haven't won a Super Bowl since the '90s, so that's also another team you could probably root for as well. Rams so the Rams and the Seahawks have won one within a reasonable timeline that many of us have seen, and then. Yeah, Bears and Niners. Niners haven't won since the 90s. Bears haven't won since 85. And then with the AFC, Bills have never won. And then Houston's never won. Broncos won in 2015. And Patriots obviously won in 2018. That's the last time they won. So I guess the teams you would be rooting for in this aspect, like you said, would be the Bears, Niners, Bills, Texans. So you would probably want like you said, you'd probably want, you already named the 4 teams. So yeah, you're right. Bills, Bears, Niners, Texans. Yeah. It is what it is. Anyway, guys, I have been here for 2 hours. This was such an early stream. I think I started this stream around 7 o'clock. So I usually end up doing my streams later on around like 10, 11, sometimes 9. But we had time today. We had time today to really speak on this. It was a very early stream for us. So I'm really happy about that. Early stream today. Love it, love it, love it. It was pretty good. But I'm gonna call it here tonight, guys. I just wanted to have this brief discussion to kind of give the pros and cons of what John Harbaugh could be, as well as address both teams, because both not both teams, as well as address both fan bases, because the back and forth on Twitter is just unnecessary. John is what the Giants need right now, and the Ravens are going to get who they need. We don't need to have this whole back and forth. But again, Twitter's always been like that, so it is what it is. Twitter's a cesspool of toxicity, so people don't go there to be positive. People go there to be negative. Twitter brings out the worst in everybody, and that's essentially what people look to do. They feed off of toxicity and negativity, and it only accelerates when it comes to something involving a fandom, whether it's sports, music, comedy, anime, gaming. As long as there is an opportunity, as long as not even an opportunity, as long as there's a form of entertainment or a form of a discussion, because politics gets real nasty on Twitter. As long as there's a debate or a discussion that can be had about something, there's always going to be toxicity. And sports brings out the worst in people, so it is what it is. Anyway, that's all I got to say. It is what it is. Best of luck to John Harbaugh with the New York Giants. If Todd Monken doesn't want to be a head coach, hopefully he'll join John in New York, and we'll see who gets to be the defensive coordinator. We'll see who Harbaugh picks. Obviously, it's going to be somebody in his coaching circle, because we've heard about Anthony Weaver. He's now been linked to them, and that seems to be, based on the reports, that seems to be somebody John would be definitely interested in. That's a former Raven as well. So he's going to bring former Ravens coaches here. He wants a coaching staff of former Ravens. That's what he's going to do. So it is what it is. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Wasn't really expecting to do a stream today, but then again, we have to talk about John Harbaugh. So that was pretty cool to do. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. It's 9 o'clock, and I can enjoy the rest of my night instead of being here at like 12:30, 1 a.m. and having to go to sleep. So I was able to get this out early because I was here and I had nothing else to do, and I wasn't tired from work. This was awesome. So with that being said, that is all I've got. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Be sure to stay safe. And peace out. Good night, everybody.